But after months of prayer, nothing happened, and his rage reached new levels.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times religious leaders got arrested.
Raniere, who described himself as a self-help guru, was sentenced at a federal court in Brooklyn to 120 years behind bars.
For this list, we're ranking the most high-profile instances where accusations of illegal behavior resulted in criminal charges against religious leaders. Can you think of any we missed? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Warren Jeffs. Polygamy is still practiced within a number of Mormon denominations, including the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
This is the hidden world of the FLDS, one of the largest polygamous groups in the United States, and the kingdom of their leader, the now jailed Warren Jeffs.
However, the legal ages of consent definitely still apply, which is the reason former FLDS President Warren Jeffs was arrested back in 2006. Before being caught, he'd arranged illegal marriages for parishioners, leading Arizona and Utah to issue warrants for his arrest. Jeffs went on the run, but was caught during a routine traffic stop.
I'm just a little boy in a jail cell. Didn't know I could make any trouble like that.
He was convicted of sexual assault and aggravated sexual assault, referencing the relationships he had with his spouses. He is currently serving a life sentence, plus an additional 20 years.
Jeffs once ruled the Colorado City, Arizona area, but not anymore.
Number 9. Samuel Mullet. The Amish lifestyle by nature is generally one of conservative simplicity. But what happens when a community leader decides that his contemporaries are not being conservative enough? Enter the Burgles community, an Amish group led by one Samuel Mullet, who wielded his power so strictly that he drove out and excommunicated 9 families.
In September, Sam Mullet, leader of the isolated Bear Cult settlement, was convicted along with his followers on felony charges.
In 2012, Mullet was convicted of federal hate crime and conspiracy charges after spearheading a beard-cutting campaign committed by his loyalists.
Mullet got 15 years in prison after 14 of his followers were convicted of cutting the hair and beards, religious symbols for many Amish.
This is a huge offense in Amish culture, since the growing of beards after marriage is considered sacred. Mullet received 15 years for his involvement in the attacks, although this sentence was reduced in 2015.
I believe if Sam Mullet is put away for a long time, that it'll take care of the problem.
Number 8. Rock Terrio. The story of doomsday prophet and cult leader Rock Terrio will make your blood run cold. In the late 1970s, he founded a commune called the Anthill Kids in Quebec, Canada, promising freedom, equality, and unity. Instead, he isolated members from their friends and family, impregnated the women, and subjected everyone in the commune to horrific abuse we can't even begin to describe here.
What he built around us is the worst jail that could ever exist because we don't see the bars.
He would make cult members punish each other and even themselves in brutally sadistic ways. In 1984, the commune relocated to Ontario. Only in 1989 was Terrio arrested and charged with assault. This also led to murder charges and a life sentence. He never ended up finishing this sentence, however, as he was killed by a fellow inmate in 2011.
He told me that he was a godly man who had chosen a different way of life.
Number 7. Sun Myung Moon. Remember the Moonies? From the 1970s onward, that was the popular name for members of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, derived from the name of their leader, Sun Myung Moon.
Reverend Moon's central vision to unify the world.
These days, Moonies is less used, but the group is still around. Moon claimed he was the second coming of Christ and became infamous for conducting mass weddings of his followers. Moon was actually arrested twice, the first time in 1947 by North Korea on spying charges, and in 1982 by the United States for tax evasion. The leader did prison time for both arrests, serving 3 years hard labor in North Korea and 13 months in a low-security Connecticut prison, after which he was released for good behavior.
Even though Reverend Moon died 2 years ago, there's still an empty chair for the man most people here believe is the Messiah.
Number 6. L. Ron Hubbard. This isn't quite an arrest, as the founder of Scientology wasn't successfully taken into custody. But the charges, trial, and the man himself are notable enough that we had to squeeze it in.
To really know life, you've got to be part of life.
L. Ron Hubbard wore a lot of hats during his life. including as a science fiction author, which birthed Dianetics and eventually Scientology. The controversial religion has been relegated as a cult in France since 1995, but Hubbard was actually tried and convicted in absentia for fraud back in 1978, along with an associate who ran the French branch of Scientology.
The target of media scrutiny and under investigation by tax authorities, Scientology's founder evaded growing hostility against him by purchasing a yacht and taking to sea.
Hubbard was sentenced to 4 years in prison and fined 35,000 francs, but he never returned to France to pay the fine or serve the time.
I am studying ancient civilizations, trying to find what happened to them, finding out why they went.
Number 5. Jim Bakker. Televangelists still make headlines today, but they were primarily visible during the 1980s, especially our next entry, Jim Bakker. The empire Bakker ran with his wife Tammy Faye was, at one point, so expansive that the couple even managed a Christian theme park together.
This shows the location where we are right now. We're actually sitting right here.
However, Heritage USA was only part of the Bakker story. In the late 80s, his former secretary accused him of sexual assault, and Bakker faced indictments for fraud.
It's been devastating to us, what we've been going through, and if I could just give you one scripture to kind of set the stage.
Tried for the latter, Bakker was initially sentenced to 45 years, but that was reduced to 8 years in 1992. Today, the man who financially defrauded so many of his flock is free, remarried, and back on the air with a new television show.
Zeitgeist 2025. Do you want to tell us what that means?
Number 4. Keith Raniere.
Raniere could face life in prison when he's sentenced on Tuesday.
You've probably heard of Keith Raniere and NXIVM, especially thanks to the involvement of celebrities like Smallville actress Allison Mack. In 1998, Keith Raniere founded the cult NXIVM as a sort of personal development pyramid scheme. But while Raniere was giving seminars about self-improvement, he was systematically manipulating and abusing women, with the help of recruiters like Mack.
Known as Vanguard to his followers, was a conman and a predator who exploited women.
The cult included a secret society of women who were branded and referred to as slaves. Raniere got away with it until his arrest in 2018. The following year, he was convicted of sex trafficking and conspiracy and sentenced to 120 years behind bars.
Keith Raniere will not be able to victimize people anymore after today's sentence.
Number 3. Fred Phelps.
God put it in your wicked heart to start that war.
The Westboro Baptist Church is infamous for its anti-gay vitriol and protests at funerals. Its founder, Fred Phelps, actually started out as a civil rights lawyer, even winning awards from the NAACP for his work with African American clients.
Phelps was an attorney who started out handling civil rights cases in the Midwest before he was disbarred.
In the late 70s, however, Phelps was disbarred in the wake of cruel, unprofessional behavior in court against a female court reporter, whom he accused of sexual promiscuity and perversion. His behavior and obsession only got worse from there. He was eventually convicted of disorderly conduct for verbal harassment in 1994 and handed 2 suspended 30-day jail sentences, but avoided doing any time. He continued to protest at funerals until his death in 2014.
The church said in a statement today that the worldwide media was gleefully anticipating the death of Phelps.
Number 2. Shoko Asahara. Aum Shinrikyo has been labeled many things since its inception in 1984, from religion to doomsday cult to terrorist organization. It was founded by Shoko Asahara, who had already been convicted in 1981 on illegal drug charges and for practicing pharmacy without a license.
Asahara's critics dismiss him as a devious fraud.
He eventually declared that he was Christ, predicted an apocalyptic Third World War, and began to commit terrorist attacks, aimed at hindering legal action against him and maybe triggering the apocalypse along the way. In March 1995, he organized a sarin gas attack that killed 13 and sickened thousands more on a crowded Tokyo subway.
That shock was intensified when it was established that the attack was carried out not by hardened terrorists, but by a religious group.
A long trial and series of appeals followed before Asahara was finally convicted. He and 6 other Aum Shinrikyo members were hanged in 2018. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some dishonorable mentions. Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh, convicted of sexual assault and murder. Kent Hovind, also known as Dr. Dino. This Christian fundamentalist was convicted of tax fraud and domestic violence.
Why would there be gravel layers? It's gravel, sand, clay.
Yahweh Ben Yahweh, convicted for conspiracy to commit murder.
The self-proclaimed Son of God was arrested on Wednesday, charged with racketeering.
Barry Minkow, from a Ponzi scheme to fraud.
Minkow was once the senior pastor here at Community Bible Church in Mira Mesa and was trusted by many parishioners.
Guy Desnoyers. This Catholic priest killed his mistress and child before confessing.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Charles Manson. The head of the Manson family has become synonymous with the death of the 60s ideal, a horrifying coda for the summer of love.
It was the summer of love, climate ripe for Manson to assemble his group of adoring followers, soon to be called the Manson family.
Charles Manson's cult may have started out with sex, drugs, and free love, but under his manipulative and insidious leadership, it became a murderous doomsday cult that looked forward to an apocalyptic race war. Manson's life was a revolving door of crime and punishment, but the arrest and conviction for his role in masterminding the Tate LaBianca murders was what put him away for good.
Charles Manson, the evil mastermind behind the 1969 murder spree that took the lives of 7 people.
Manson would die in prison in 2017, but the legacy of those crimes remains one of the darkest footnotes in American history.
He leaves behind a legacy of depraved murder.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.